Good evening, everybody. Welcome to ORL Season 13 for Split B of this championship. We are here for the Australian Grand Prix. Last week we were in Austria, and now we go to the land down under where it's used to host the opening round of the championship until this year, of course. My name is Jess, and joining me in the commentary box is Jacob once again. How are you doing, Jacob?
I'm doing very, very well, thank you, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing how everyone does out here. As you say, we've gone from Austria to Australia, which is always nice.
Yeah, it is. I love it, really. It's a lot of fun, and some of the tracks where they go to for majority of the time in time trial, and obviously my team's a bit familiar to it as well. We got a bit more drivers this week. We got 18 drivers, which is great to see, and a few new drivers like we got, I think I see Felix. He is Brownie, for those of you that don't know. And I'm just trying to see, we've got Svent as well. And obviously we got last week's poleman, Svetkov, I need to get his name right, who's looking to get his second pole position of the season. And also joining us in the grandstands in the pit lane wall is our pit lane reporter, Black Panther. How are you doing?
Hey, good evening, everyone. Doing good over here, as I'm at the pit wall at the moment, so yeah, I can't wait to see this race get in action.
So the tyres today are going to be used at the C4s, the C3s and the C2. So I would expect to see a few people, I think everyone almost qualifying on the softs, but the tyre strategy is obviously going to be a lot different. But I'm just going to see if we can go on board with someone on a lap. I was going to hope I'll go on board with last week's pole sitter, but I do believe he's invalidated a lap, so I can't go on board with him unless he did invalidate just before the final corner. Nope, he is fine, so that's all good. This is the first braking zone going into turn one. It's a fairly heavy one, and as soon as you clear turn one, you may go on the throttle straight away, hit the DRS, and then go into 8th gear. Try to take the turn 2 and 3 line as high as you possibly can, and then heading towards turn 4 and 5. You should swing to the left-hand side and then go to the right. You don't need to brake really into turn 4. Once again, you need to swing on the track a little bit. You're going to swing to the right-hand curb, and then you're going to go towards turn 7, and then you're going to go one of the back straights on the circuit, and then you're going to go towards turn 9 and 10. You're going to get a little bit of traffic from a few people sometimes, because you almost invalidated there. Another common place to invalidate, really, which is a bit of a shame, as he now goes through to the Melbourne Bridge. You're now going to be approaching turn 11 and 12, where we've seen quite a few people bin it in real life and obviously in league racing. And then the most common overtaking opportunity on the track, turn 13, as you come past there as well. He's doing all right with the lap, but he's running out of fuel, so I don't think he's going to get a lap in. We'll have to wait and see, though, as he comes a little bit of a lock up there, but he goes towards the final corner. Is he going to do enough to snatch Dylan off pole position with a 1:18.9? Let's see what he could do. No, he can't. It's a 1:20.0 for last week's pole sitter, Jacob.
Yeah, that was not a clean lap from Svetkov at all. A couple of mistakes throughout the lap, and it seemed to me like he was lagging just a little bit. Of course, it could have been on my end as well, but that obviously won't be helping him too much. But as you say, DL Warren sitting at the top of the standings at the moment, but it's very, very close up there with Muller and Jonathan both within a tenth of a second, and Andy and Getone just outside as well. However, after Getone in the Mercedes, there is an enormous gap down to Geldervand. So there's a huge 7 tenths between 5th and 6th place, as soon as I said that, Leonard goes and puts himself smack dab in the middle, about 4 tenths away from the current pole time. But yeah, it seems like we're getting a bit of a sort of two fields emerging at the moment. Interesting to see whether the likes of Geldervand and those below him are able to do anything about that huge gap.
Well, obviously in Tier 1, Slipstream is banned. I think it's banned for Tier 2 as well, I believe. So they're hoping. Usually you get Slipstream around turn 12 and 13, but obviously you can't do that. So they'll have to rely on the different ways to try and gain some toe, obviously. Because if you gain Slipstream, I think you can gain about half a temp, which will probably put you into the 117s. But they need to think of other ways. I think a few more people are doing their outlaps now. The ones who invalidated, that's Kruzitz, Polykarov, I think that's how you say it. Danny as well, Syke as well, and obviously Brownie as well. We've got Ben, who's still in the pits, yet to complete his flying lap. Obviously, I think there's 29 laps around this circuit, so that means we could see a potential one-stop strategy. I'm almost certain Black Panther is going to be soft to hards today.
Yeah, I think so too. You can also go for the soft to mediums, but it kind of depends if there is going to be a safety car period or not, because I'm sure that people outside of the top 10 will start on the mediums or on the hards. It's kind of the same, but I think in the end it's hard to manage the tires if you go from the softs to the mediums. So it's going to be hard in the end to have the control over your tires and make sure that they don't pop open.
So we can see Andy getting a bit of a toe from Muller there. I don't think he's meant to do that, but they're both on their outlaps anyway, so it doesn't matter. Obviously, a few weeks ago, Muller got pole position in Brazil, but he had an unfortunate spin, which costed him a few places, but he somehow managed to get into 4th place, which is a great comeback for him, and it shows how good his driving style is as well. So I wonder, after his week off in a Tier 2, can he back up his form again and go back to winning race?
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see about that one. A couple of really, really fast drivers out here at the moment. A couple yet to set a lap time as well. Kruzix in that McLaren, heading towards turn 11 right now. Sipe was on a really fast lap in the Williams, but actually invalidated the lap through turn 12, which is probably the most common place to invalidate a lap, perhaps in the whole game. It's really, really tough to get that corner right, and it's so tempting just to take a little bit too much of the inside curve, just cut the corner. You can gain so much time if you cut it just the right amount, but if you cut it straight back into the pit, so not happy with his lap time or with his tyres, as they seem to be getting pretty hot towards the end of the lap there.
Yeah, it is by the looks of things. Quite a few people getting hot in terms of tyre temperature, so it's going to be quite tricky for these guys to get their laps right straight away with 9 minutes left to go of the session, as I seem to be dropping frames currently, so I'm trying to sort that out at the moment. I think it's not just I'll get that fixed at some point, but 1:18.9 is the time with Muller in P2. I think he's going to try and find some time on the board. I think he was a bit quicker that lap, actually, going to just past turn 13 now and then going into turn 14 and 15 as he comes across the line now. Let's see what he can do in the Red Bull as he comes across the line now. It is going to be a 1:18.893, so that puts him in pole position.
Yeah, that's provisional pole, but snatched away immediately by Andy in the McLaren. Now the lead McLaren with a 1:18.6. That raises the bar significantly, or lowers it, I should say. VSR Muller, yeah, compared to his first lap, as he would like to have. And you can see that sort of gap there to Andy, being absolute proof of that. DL Warren has actually invalidated his first effort on his second set of tyres in that Alfa Romeo, so he's not going to be getting any faster anytime soon. What's Getone doing in the Mercedes? Also invalidated. So these guys are really struggling quite a bit at the moment. Gelbevand was able to improve by about 4/10 compared to his first effort. But I don't think he's pushing now, so I think he's just going to be heading back to the pits after that one. So up into 6th place he goes for the time being, but that's still 0.7 of a second away from the current provisional pole time. Sissant leaps and bounds, especially those who their first lap put them down towards the bottom of the order. So I think a lot of these guys are actually struggling to get anywhere near the pace of some of our front runners like Andy and Muller up there at the top.
Yeah, they've got a little bit of time to make up by the looks of things as well. So I did just see an Alfa Romeo go off a bit. I'm not entirely sure. Oh, Dylan has got a 5-place grid penalty with a collision with Fruit sits there. So he's not going to be starting on pole position no matter what happens. Even if he sets a good lap time that's going to get pole position, that's not going to be enough, sadly, which is going to be a bit of a shame.
Yeah, and they are together on track. And yeah, Dylan has front wing damage. So they have actually hit each other in a significant way. And I don't know how they've managed to do that, but one of them is going to be, well, they're probably both going to be pretty unhappy about that, but I imagine Dylan's going to be unhappier because it seems like he's the one with the damage and the one with the penalty as well. Kruzix also was on an, I don't know about this, but I think this is probably, while the game has apportioned the blame to DL Warren, I suspect this is probably Kruzix's fault because he's the one on the outlap and he's the one without any front wing damage. So yeah, I think Dylan was probably pushing again after invalidating the first lap on that set of tyres. So that's not very good news for him. And yeah, I think the game might have misapportioned the blame on that one.
Yeah, but a bit of a shame there. And everyone on the soft compound, the tyres, no one on the medium tyres, which, or the hards, which strongly suggests they want to get a banker lamp in straight away, obviously. So something just to keep an eye on there as well with 6 minutes left to go. Is he meant to be there? I'm not entirely sure, but someone's left the session anyway, as the times are starting to tumble quite a bit. The track is evolving. It's also the calm before the storm, so hopefully we can see these times improve.
4th position. He's yet to set a second lap time in the session, so he's only had his banker lap the very first lap of the session so far. He waited until everyone came back into the pits after their second run so he could have a nice clear track in that Renault, and let's see what he's able to do with that clear track. Sector 1 is over a 10th up on his best thus far, and there's you can gain a decent amount of time in Sector 1, but that's definitely a good start to the lap. Let's see whether he can maintain it here. Coming through turns 9 and 10, rides the curb nicely, but maybe a little bit too pedestrian in the Renault, maybe left a bit on the table there. Down towards turn 12 he comes now. Very important to get this one right, and that looked beautiful through turn 12 and or turn 11 and then turn 12, I should say. Down towards turn 13 he comes now. At the line he goes. What's it going to be from the Renault? It is an improvement, but it's only a couple of tenths. So that puts him up ahead of Dylan and into P3, but that's only a gain of 1 position.
Yeah, that's what it is at the moment for BDG. Jonathan as well. Dylan, I think, Get Owned quite improved as well. Psych up into 6th place. So that's a good position for him. And Black Panther, if I was you, where would you want to qualify in this session?
Well, for sure on pole position, but I think at my pace it wouldn't be able. But I think if you have the pace of the midfield, I would say P11, so you can start on the fresher tires, on the medium ones, and so you can have the advantage to have another strategy.
Yeah, that's not too bad. And if you're 10th, then you're probably going to be at a huge disadvantage as you've got guys behind you on a different strategy that probably going to be more beneficial towards the end of your first stint. So if I was Leonard, I would be quite worried. You may want to try and get up there in towards 5th or 6th place potentially for Leonard at least. But the ones that are down most likely will be starting on the hard. But even then, the hards are not the best tyre to start on, but it will help you get in the softs in the race. But some of these guys are going to hope for a safety car, that's for sure.
Yeah, a lot of these guys actually invalidating their laps at the moment as well, having real troubles in qualifying here, particularly with turns 11 and 12, as you might expect. But around the whole lap, I'm seeing people invalidating laps here, there, and everywhere. Gelbervan being the latest victim. He also nearly stuck it in the wall on the exit of turn 10. The traction can be really tough there, and the track can be really slippery, so he did a good job to keep it out of the wall in the end in the house. Currently sitting in P9, but into the pits though, and able to try and get another set of soft tyres on. Leonard is improving in the Williams, but only by a couple of tenths, which will only move him up to about P7 at best, unless he has a really monster final sector. It's looking okay for the time being, this final sector. A little bit wide through turn 14. Turn 15, nice though, really nice through turn 15. Final corner, maybe just a little bit too wide, a little bit of understeer through there in the Williams, but up towards the line he comes, and it's a decent improvement up to P6. That actually was a significant improvement in the end and puts him ahead of his teammate in the sister Williams.
Yeah, that is good as well. And you definitely want to be ahead of you, well, closer to your teammates in the race to get that strategic advantage as well. But you don't want to be too much, because you may want to try the double stack, but unfortunately double stack does not seem to work on this game, which is a bit of a shame, of course. But the only person out on the lap at the moment is Muller, which means I think he's going to be, the only person to set a lap for now. But then he's going to go into the pit, so he's not going to have enough time at all to get a lap in, which is going to be a bit of a shame. But he's got Rossi for company. There we go. So that's helped him a little bit as well. He's gained about and he's invalidated.
Yeah, no, he just took way too much curb through turn 6 there, completely invalidated the lap. And that's a big shame, because that was looking like a pretty nice opening to his lap. However, he does have enough time to crawl around on this same set of tyres and go for another one. However, he has taken a bit out of these tyres, and knowing how critical tyre wear can be in the race, that will not be good news for him if he does end up setting the fastest lap on this set of tyres. Just a little bit of an impediment as he heads back around towards the line once again. Flex's Mercy behind in the Ferrari want to make sure there's a gap, as well as I think Prosychek's actually going to be heading back into the pits in the Alfa Romeo, so he doesn't have to worry too much. But everyone starting their outlap now and just making sure that they can get as much space as they possibly can, not trying to get themselves in traffic. Sissant is now pushing in the Renault, and I believe he's going to be the first driver of this final set to get their lap time done. However, he runs very wide in turn 7 there, and that probably won't have helped his time too much. He had to get well out of the throttle to ensure that he didn't invalidate the lap. However, he did a good job of doing that, but it still would have lost him a lot of time.
Yeah, that is a shame, of course, and if you invalidate here, then it's really going to cost you a lap time, and I imagine the gaps in Tier 1 are probably going to be even closer, as luckily he almost invalidated there. Luckily he didn't, but he's had a yellow flag, which probably hindered him a little bit, and yeah, he's invalidated in turn 13 by the looks of things. So unless he can make miracles, which he's not, he's going to start no higher than 14th place. We've got a few people across the line. I don't think Cruz is going to make it either, Jacob. He's not going to set a lap time.
Yeah, that is really weird from the McLaren. Kruzix, he's not been a good qualifying session for him at all. He's just not been able to set a lap time, and he's one of the people I'd expect to be one of the front runners in this race. So I'll expect him to see him pushing well through the field in the race. That might give us a little bit of entertainment at least, but he's pretty much thrown away any chance of a win unless there's an absolutely amazingly fortuitous safety car. And yeah, really rough stuff for Kruzix. Andy, his teammate, up there at the top at the moment and is improving, but only slightly on his previous lap time. So it'll depend on what Get Owned and Jonathan can do behind, because Muller retired from the session. DL Warren's retired from the session as well, so they're not going to be going any faster. Same for Leonard and Prosticek in 6th and 7th. So it does look like it's a battle here between Andy, Get Owned, and Jonathan for the pole position, unless the likes of Svetkov or Syke can make miracles down there in 8th and 9th position for the time being. Andy up towards the line now in the McLaren, and he goes even faster. 0.4 of a second clear of Get Owned, who's now coming around in the Mercedes into the penultimate corner, runs wide and deep, and I think, yep, he's backed out of it, so he's ruined his chance. Jonathan across the line, not fast enough, and I think that's going to be about it.
Yeah, that's it for qualifying, and last week's pole sitter, I don't think he's going to get a lap in either. Yes, he's invalidated too as well, but we got Danny in the Ferrari. Never underestimate him as he goes towards the final corner. Galvan has retired, so that's his qualifying done. Is he going to find some time to snatch off pole position in the Ferrari? Nope, he's not, but he's in P7. We've got Brownie as well, who was on a lap, but he's invalidated as well, which is a bit of a shame, though. That is everyone that's completed their lap, and Andy is on pole position. Any surprises, Black Panther?
It's a surprise to see Prosty and Galbawan doing such a good time. Like, they have a low 19, so I'm quite impressed with their performance.
Okay, so I'm just going to look at the gaps then quickly. The gap between 1st and 12th is about a second, so that's pretty good, I've got to say. So well done to everybody there. And then from about 13th to 17th is about 1.6. So, you know, the small mistakes around here can definitely cost you. But obviously in Austria, I think it was a bit closer in the dry, in the wet conditions. But we don't know what the conditions are going to be like. But hopefully there could be a sprinkles. I think we're just waiting for Frosty to retire, and then that's our qualifying session done. So hopefully he can retire quickly, because then we can get some racing underway.
Yeah, and actually this qualifying session has really been heavily affected by these invalidations. A lot of people invalidated 2 out of the 3 flying laps they attempted, some of them 3 out of the 4. So a lot of people only got to set 1 lap time throughout the whole of the session. So I think a lot of people's pace, their outright race pace, will have been completely masked by this. And I expect we'll see some of these guys proving that they do have the pace around here, but they just can't keep themselves away from those corner cuts.
Yep, so here we go, is your qualifying results. We've got Andy in P1, Get Owned in P2, Muller in P3, Jonathan 4th, and then we got Dylan, who'll be starting 10th due to his 5th place grid drop. And we got Leonard, Danny, Syke, Frosty, Tuzvedkov, and then Galbaband. And then we got Ben, Felix, Svent, Flex, Marcy, Polikov, Oxygen, and then Krutz. It's the only driver not to set a lap time, and that's really going to hinder his progress in the race, of course. But it's not, the points don't get won in qualifying, they get won in the race, so you never know. Krutzik will need to do a mega job to start from last to try and get in the points, but it is doable. We've seen other people do it before.
Yeah, Kruzix is a fast driver. Like I'd expect to see Kruzix make the points in this race, even though he's starting from the very back. He'll have the advantage of being able to pick his tires, and I think he'll have a pace advantage over a lot of those ahead of him as well. So we'll have to wait and see how he does, but I'm cautiously optimistic for him that he'll manage to at least get to the tail end of the points.
Yes, it is time to throw, I think, majority of us on the spots here. I'll start with Black Panther. Who's going to be your one to watch for in this race?
I think we gotta be careful for VSR Muller striking back. He's in the top 3 so far, but I hope he can challenge Andy Nader for P1 and also for Get Owned and Jonathan, who has been really unlucky the last few races.
And what about you, Jacob?
Yeah, I mean, I got to agree with Jonathan. I think Jonathan has had terrible luck at the start of this season, but has a lot of pace, as we saw in that qualifying session, as we saw in the race last time out in Austria as well. I think that Renault can make things happen, certainly. And of course, I do think watching Kruzix from the back will be very interesting. I'd be surprised if anyone other than Andy wins this race. But yeah, if anyone else can win this, my guess would, be VSR Muller as well.
Well, it's quite a tough one, really, because Jonathan has pretty much had mostly retirements, but for the majority of the timers he had, it's not his fault. So most of them were due to either a disconnection issue or hardware failure or something like that. So if he could overcome that, then I think he could have a really good result. Because obviously he was signed to BGTT for a reason. He's a fast driver, so I would expect him up there. And yeah, Muller just can't get caught up, but I'm sure he'll be absolutely fine. And if, like to say, Get Owned or Andy have a bit of issues, then Muller could pick up the pieces, really. So, Black Panther, do you want to remind us about the strategy for the drivers today?
Yeah, sure. So at the moment, as you can see, we have outside of the top 10, we got most of the people on the medium tires, so they are probably gonna do the one stop back to the softer tires around lap 20. But we also have Felix and Flexis Marcy who are on the harder tires, so it's gonna be interesting how they are gonna when they are gonna pit, and how they will do it in the race.
And just to before we start the stream, we've got a new sponsor for ORL. We're proudly sponsored by HyperX, who provide some really good products for us. If you want to check them out, they are HyperX on Twitter, and they do some lovely headsets as well and do some stuff for gaming too, so make sure you check that out. And it's great that we are partnering them, of course, as everyone is making their way up to the field, as Annie's going to be the first one on to start. Then now he won the race last week. Can he convert the pole to win? Not many people have done that this season in a tier 2. I wonder if we're going to see someone convert from pole to win. We'll have to wait and see, of course, as I think we're just waiting for Oxygen and Fruits to go across the line. No sign of weather on our horizons, but we'll see anyway, as we've got the 5 red lights on your screen right now. Andy on the right, Get Owned on the left. And it's a bit of a long haul, but let's see if we can get underway pretty soon here in Australia. And we are underway, and it looks like it's a pretty even start from both of these guys, actually. But look at Get Owned on your left-hand side. Oh, there's a big pile-up at the back of the grid already. We'll have a look at that in a second, but Get Owned had a brilliant start, and he's been caught napping, and it's been penalties all the way through, and it's a virtual safety car. That was more chaotic than I thought. We've got Sven that's got damage, Oxygen that's dropped down as well. We've got the Alpha Tower that's dropped, Marcy as well. Cruz has got all the way up into 14th. That was just manic.
Yeah, that was one very, very interesting start. I saw that Andy got a 5-second penalty for a severe collision with Get Owned, and I think that was just because they maybe bumped each other as soon as the virtual safety car came out, and the game has processed that as unacceptable. I don't think it probably was, so I think they could probably try and appeal those penalties, but they'll probably have to serve them in the pits, so I don't think there's anything they can do about it, unfortunately. But yeah, huge incident towards the back. Oxygen, Polyakov and Sissant involved in that one. Didn't exactly see what happened, but it looked like there was a coming together between Oxygen and Sissant, I think, and then maybe Polyakov just got caught in it as well, but I'm not 100% confident on that one, so it might be a good idea if we can go back and check that one. But we are racing once again as the virtual safety car comes to a close, and wow, straight up the inside goes Get Owned, and he's pushed Andy into the gravel trap straight away. That was rude in the extreme from the Mercedes, and Andy's down into 8th. The pole sitter, who we thought was basically nailed on to win this race. Well, that shows you that you can't count your chickens. Down into 8th he goes. Jonathan already up into 2nd. His luck finally shining on the German in the Renault.
Yeah, he's a dark horse and he's doing amazingly as well. And obviously he doesn't have any penalties at the moment, so technically he's in the net lead. And I think we may need to get a little bit more analysis from Black Panther about that start on how many people lost positions there. What strategy will they have to do now because of damage?
Yeah, I think there are already 2 people in the pit lane who had a broken front wing from the start. So we had Polyakov and Oxygen who had a front wing damage, but I'm sure that many, I saw Flexus Marcy also with wing damage. So it's interesting that he didn't pit. So yeah, I think Aninator now or he has to make many overtakes, or he's gonna go for an undercut and maybe on the harder tires and win so time on all the rest of the guys in front.
We just seen one of the Williams drivers making a move past Danny there as well, and Andy's trying to make some ground yet again after having a horrible start. He's back up into 7th place. He's got past the Alfa Romeo of Frosty as well, but they are starting to catch a lot into each other at the moment. But obviously Jonathan, he wants to get his first point of the season and he's doing very well up there as well. Danny looking very strong there in 5th place, trying to get back 4th place, which was his before the last lap.
Yeah, I want to see Danny have a good race today. Last time out in Austria, he looked really good for the opening stint of the race, but then right towards the end, he just kind of faded into obscurity, and I'd like to see him avoid doing that. But the first thing he needs to do is get past Leonard in the Williams, who is not keeping pace with the front runners quite at the moment. This gap starting to form between himself and Muller in 3rd. Danny actually gave Leonard a bit of a tap into turn 9 last lap. I don't think any front wing damage for the Ferrari was caused, but it did push Leonard wide, and that does explain some of the gap that's formed between the Williams and the Red Bull up ahead. But yeah, Ghetto leading the way at the moment in the Mercedes from Jonathan and Muller, and they'll just be looking to keep pace for the time being. They don't want to be battling too much, especially as they're gapping the rest of the field from Leonard downwards for the time being.
Yeah, and penalties may come into play as well, so they want to try and increase that gap as much as they can, especially Ghetto, and you want to try and get out of DRS range as soon as possible, and that's what Ghetto is trying to do. He was purple sector 2, so brilliant stuff from him. So that means Jonathan's lost a 10th in that lap. Meanwhile, Danny wants a good race. He's going to try and have a good race into turn 13. He's getting squeezed by Leonard, and almost exactly the same thing happened to what happened to Andy earlier on. But look at this, we got the other Williams of sight trying to go and move around the right hand side there, and he's done it. Anything you can't do, Sight can do better really well, and he's up into 5th place. So the 2 Williams are absolutely flying. They must be doing a lot of teamwork to help get their Williams up the order.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it there. Leonard fighting with Danny, and that left Danny offline, and that's what Syke was able to take advantage of in the second of the Williams. Syke with a major moment coming out of turn 2, though. Danny's going to be able to get him back surely in the Ferrari here. He's closing right up to the back of him, but not close enough. Syke holding that really, really nicely there. But yeah, really hectic stuff, and a lot of drivers making a lot of minor mistakes and a couple of major mistakes as well. Kruzix almost found himself in the wall on the exit of turn 12 last lap. I was just jumping on board with him as I expect to see him making a bit of a charge up through the field, but at the moment he's stuck behind Geldervan and Felix Lüneburg as well. Brownie, of course, in the Mercedes. And yeah, he's not making up as much ground as he would like at the moment. Of course, it is quite a tough track to overtake on, so that will definitely explain some of that. Leonard now really falling away from the top 3, who just are in a bit of a race of their own at the moment. There's no doubt that the likes of Andy would be able to be battling up there with them, but of course, after that opening lap incident with Get-Owned himself, he's not able to do that. Kruzix, meanwhile, has managed to get past Geldervan, and looks like he's going to go past the second Haas in about 5 corners as he gets past Ben Hitz around the outside into turn 13 as well. Ben Hitz trying to fight back, but nothing he can do there. And now Geldervan might be looking at his teammate as well.
Yeah, as I said earlier, Jacob, the team strategy here is even more crucial as we've got one of the Haas's into the pits. Wants to get his stop done early from the medium, so I'm guessing he's probably going to do a 2-stop. We'll have to wait and see, or he might be serving his stop go early on. He wants to get out of the way. I think he might have got a stop go. We'll have to wait and see. We'll see what tyres he's gone on, and it's a front wing change. That's why he got damage from that incident he had earlier on as well, and Get-Owned has dropped positions. What happened there?
Oh, yeah, no, sorry, I did not see what happened to get home, but he just dropped several positions. I can only assume it was a mistake. I don't think he was particularly close between him and Jonathan, so I don't think they would have had an incident. I'm not certain about that, but yeah, sorry, I was watching what was going on in the back. But yeah, much more important is that factor. Now, Andy up the inside of Danny as well into turn 9. Gets it done, but gets a bit of a tap on the rear from the Ferrari, who he thought was gone. Tried to take the racing line, but the Ferrari was still there, saying, excuse me, you can't take the line quite yet. And now Andy can set well offline from it, but will hold the position through turn 11 and into turn 12 as well. And Danny actually forced to the inside where he picks up a 3-second time penalty. Meanwhile, Prostychek and Svetkov going 3 wide there with DL Warren as well. And it's going to be the Alfa Romeo who tries to get the advantage, but he breaks way too late in the end, and Svetkov gets the advantage, and Prostychek back up the inside of his teammate as well. Frenetic battling towards the back end of the top 10 here.
And there's also battling happening at the front as well. Muller just got past Jonathan for the race lead. Don't forget, he started in around about 4th place, and he's now into 1st place. Brilliant stuff from him as well. I don't think Jonathan will be too pleased about that, but at least he's kept it clean, and they're able to carry on. Jonathan is praying to the internet and hardware gods that he can carry on with his PC, because otherwise it's going to be very unfortunate. But at the moment, he's doing very well in 2nd place. He's got a comfortable gap between himself and the Williams behind, so he's going to try and make sure he can keep up with Muller in front. But you can see Muller almost out of DRS territory, which is absolutely brilliant there. It was just hard to follow what battles to see, but let's see if Jonathan could basically improve and see if he can close in once again. I think the chance he'll get really is through turn 12, and he's pushing already. Purple sector 2. He doesn't want Muller to get P1 that easy.
Yeah, no, Muller looked like he was going to gap him and break DRS to the Renault behind, but Jonathan with an excellent response with a purple sector 2. That's really, really strong mentally that he was able to dig that out there when it looked like Muller was about to get away from him. Your heart can sink in those scenarios when you see the gap immediately rise up to about 0.8 of a second. He, with a great response in the middle of the lap. However, the final sector of the lap actually a bit messy, particularly from turn 13. He ran a little bit wide, and as a result of that, he's just about within DRS range, but it's really on the edge between himself and Muller. Prostychek into the pits from 9th position. Sisson, meanwhile, staying out there after damage on that opening lap incident right off the start line in the Renault. But he's losing so much time electing not to pit when the others involved in that incident did elect to pit, so I don't think that's going to work out for him too well.
Nope, it's not. If I was some of these guys, maybe pitting earlier will be the best scenario to get the undercut, especially if you're stuck in traffic. But we also got Get Owned and Syke and Andy having a battle there. We got Syke that's gone on the grass there. I couldn't see what went on, probably due to the camera angles, but we got last week's pole setter Svetkov in 7th place now. And I think Syke has got damage there. He's all the way down into 9th place. So Get Owned back up into 4th place. He wants to get back to the lead, but he's in the 9/10 behind Lennon, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult for him. But the Williams pair are nowhere near each other now.
Yeah, I think Syke might have dropped it on the exit of turn 4 and hit the wall on the left-hand side and then skidded off into the grass as well. Now he's just trying to get out of people's way here because he's so slow with that front wing damage in the Williams, and that was what was looking like a pretty good race for him, getting a whole lot worse. Now Cruiser meanwhile trying to make a move on Felix Luneberg, but not able to do so quite yet, but up in 10th position already in the McLaren, and there is the points that I thought he'd be getting into. And maybe, just maybe, with the amount of other people that are falling off the road ahead of him in this race, he has a chance of something more than just a couple of points.
We got the first of the crew, the few of the crew who are obviously weren't involved in incidents in the pits. Black Panther, can you explain more?
Yeah, so Jake, who had a spin at the who spun out, and I think it was somewhere at turn 4, is now changing his front wing and probably going on the hard till the end of the race. Same goes to Svetkov, so it's interesting to see if they are going to gain some time on the guys who are still on the softs.
Maybe they're following our advice, Black Panther, and opting to pit now to get the undercut out of the way, which is fair enough. But we're still seeing some traffic up ahead between Garberband, Krutitz and Brownlee as well. It's going to be a three-way battle. We got our first retirement of Polakov, who is, I think, bit aside in the pit lane. So, unfortunately, that is his race done and dusted. I think he's given up, which is a bit of a shame. But meanwhile, let's concentrate on the battle for 8th place. We've got Krutitz trying to make up some ground on Brownlee now. heading towards turn 13. Unfortunately, he can't make the move stick, and he stays in P. And we got another yellow flag in sector 1. That's probably the person going out of the pit lane. As Cruz has almost had a moment in the gravel trap. That might have costed him and allowed Galbavan to gain some more momentum. We got Leonard, Get Owned, and Andy now in the pits, and they're looking to opt to the hard compounded tyres.
Yeah, both Andy and Get Owned are actually having to serve their 5-second time penalties from the incident at the very beginning of the race that really wasn't an incident at all, but they've been punished with their 5-second time penalties, and as a result they've had to serve those in the pits. So that's not going to help them at all. Get Owned was trying to battle for third position with Leonard. They both came into the pits at the same time, but because of that extra 5 seconds, he's now well away and a couple of positions away as well from the guy he was battling out on track with. So that's a really nice boon for Leonard himself, and hopefully, because he's been having to look race in his mirrors for this whole race, he's been a bit of a cork in the bottle up there in 3rd and 4th position throughout this whole race, but now that he's in clear air, maybe he'll be able to get a bit more pace now that he doesn't have to worry too much about the cars behind.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully he doesn't get involved in too many traffic incidents at the moment, and that's very important around here actually, and in any racetrack you've got to learn how to deal with traffic, especially if you're a quick guy like Ghetto, because you're going to have people that are still on the mediums for pretty much most of the race, and they're wanting to stay on the mediums or the hards for quite some time, and you got to learn how to deal with it really. And for the guys that are on those alternate strategies, maybe they want to think ahead a little bit too much as well. Muller goes into the pits as well for his hard strategy. He's going to pit before his rivals are Jonathan, Danny and Dilla, the most important rival being of BGG Jonathan, of course, and obviously Felix's pit window is opening pretty soon as well. So Jonathan is ahead for now, but he's still yet to make his pit stop. Where does Muller come out ahead traffic-wise? He's got some clear air, so that's really going to help him on his outlap before the rest of his guys pit. Maybe that could be a saving grace for him to maintain his lead.
Yeah, that's beautiful timing of that pit stop for Muller. He's 5.5 seconds to Leonard, so no worries about the Williams undercutting him. And 8.1 seconds of space for him to just pummel into here in the Red Bull. That is exactly what you want to see if you're the race leader and you've come into the pits. And Jonathan has a big task on his hands to try and get the overcut. He's already about 7/10 down on his own best lap time, so I don't think he's going to be anywhere near Muller when he comes out of the pits, assuming he comes into the pits in this lap. So it'll be interesting to see whether he actually decides, based on the fact that he's probably not going to be able to overcut the erstwhile race leader, whether he decides actually instead that he wants to try and stick it on out there and try and go onto the mediums. But no, he will head into the pits in the Renault.
There he goes then. We're going to watch Muller as he goes towards turn 13 now to see if Jonathan can get a really good pit stop. If anyone's going to beat the records of obviously the pit record from Max Verstappen's pit crew earlier on, then I'll be very surprised, but probably not in this game. So Jonathan's coming out of the pits now, and we've got Muller just about to cross the start finish line, so it's going to be close, but there we go. That clean air advantage definitely helped him, and it's a 1.9 second gap between himself and BG Jonathan. Leonard, I believe, has just pitted a few laps earlier. He's ahead of Danny as well, so Leonard's undercut really did help him so far, and there's still a few people still yet to pit as well. Let me just check, there's anyone that's still yet to pit. Only the top 3 on track, so that's Brownie, Krutic and Galbavan, who started either on the hards or on the mediums.
Yeah, and both Kruzik and Galbavan are actually being really held up by Brownie, and they should be really pushing on those medium tyres at the moment, but they can't get past the Mercedes, and they're having to run to his rhythm and run to his hard tyre pace, which is really, really hurting them in the long term. Also, Jonathan went on to the mediums. Muller is on the hards, Jonathan is on the mediums. We have a differing strategy between the top 2 runners, and now Muller's just picked up a 3-second time penalty as well. But Black Panther, how do you see the battle between Jonathan on the mediums and Muller on the hards playing out towards the end of this race?
I think Jonathan has to hope that he can close the gap to Muller and maybe create an overtake opportunity, so he can create a gap afterwards, so he can just manage the tires afterwards, because it's gonna be a struggle for sure to have the similar pace of Muller in the end of the race.
It's going to be hard actually, because even though the mediums can last to the end, well, looking at it is around about 14 or 15 laps the mediums can last for. But the optimum pace is a lot different. So I will check the tyre length pretty soon, to have it written down somewhere. But Jonathan's, I think, medium tyre pace, I think it's going to help him close to Muller, but Muller's going to have a more advantage towards the end when he's got those tyres that can definitely last the whole way. So hopefully Jonathan could know to pick up the pace, and he's got to really get ahead of him, to be honest, if he wants to stand a chance of winning. Obviously Muller getting that penalty as well, that's probably helped Jonathan in some way as well.
Yeah, Kruzix, by the way, headed into the pits at the end of that lap. He was losing so much time behind Brownie. He's actually decided, rather than going mediums to soft, he's gone mediums to hards instead. Very, very fascinating to see what he's going to be able to do throughout the rest of this race. Of course, he's got several laps fresher hard tyres than pretty much everyone else who's gone onto those tyres. So right at the end of the race, he's probably going to be the fastest guy out there, apart from maybe Brownie, who's probably going to be on those softs right at the end after starting on the hard tyres. But yeah, so Kruzix rolling the dice a little bit there, currently sitting down in 11th. Meanwhile, Zvetkov and DL Warren fighting, but it's the Alfa Romeo who gets the advantage over the Alfa Tauri, and up into 7th position he goes. DL Warren, Danny, and Jonathan all on those medium tyres, trying the soft to medium strategy. Let's follow their pace very closely indeed.
Yeah, let's watch all the medium runners actually to see who's get the best strategy, because I thought soft to hards were the best, but you never know. These are one of the best esports drivers in on the platform. So you've got tier 1 as well. But these guys have a lot of experience, and they quit. They've been signed to this league because they are quit, and you know they wouldn't be in this league. They're not. But meanwhile, Get Owned is trying to get past some traffic right now as he gets past Fossey. Actually, Fossey pitted a few laps before Get Owned, so they're fighting for position here. And for some reason, Get Owned is doing his best to try and stay ahead of the Alfa Romeo, but it's proven to be a lot more challenging for him than most realise. So Fossey is really holding his own here down in 10th place. He wants to try and make sure he can get points today. He wants more than 1 point, that's for sure, so he wants to try and get past, but any points can be absolutely crucial.
Yeah, currently sitting on 0 points in the championship, I believe, in the Alfa Romeo, so he really needs to get off the ground sooner rather than later. But yeah, Get Owned having to battle with the likes of Prostychek. He's got Danny, DL Warren, and Zvetkov all ahead of him between himself and Leonard. Reminder, he was battling with Leonard before coming into the pit. So that 5-second time penalty in the pits has hampered him so much because it's lost him 3 track positions. That's 3 people he has to pass, so that just compounds the amount of time he's losing on top of the base 5 seconds as well. Meanwhile, at the very back of the field, Sissons had a spin in the Renault, but he's managed to get back going again. No damage on the track, so I don't think there's any risk of a virtual safety car or safety car. But it's not been a good race for the second Renault. The first Renault, however, is doing better than, well, he's still going in this race, and that's better than he can say for some of the races so far this season. At some point, they've all come to an end, and who's that who stopped on the pit straight? I think is that Flex's Marcy. Yeah, he's had trouble on the final corner. He's lost a significant amount of his front wing as well, so he's probably going to have to be coming back into the pits yet again in the Ferrari.
Yeah, so he's got a lot of time to make up with, of course. Obviously not having the best of races either, but the ones that are having the best races so far, I've got to say, Dylan's gained quite a few positions, but obviously there's still quite a few people yet to pit. He would have gained 1 position as we have a few of battles going up front. We've got Jonathan and Muller. This is technically for the race leaders. They're both going side by side here. Jonathan's going to try and get a better exit, and he does as Jonathan takes the lead once again from VSR Muller as we head towards the penultimate corners. Sorry that we almost missed it there, but luckily we draw our attention to that just a little bit as Jonathan, he is doing everything in his power to make sure Muller stays ahead. He's on the fresher mediums, obviously, but that's probably not going to last too long into this race. So he's got to try and increase that gap just a little bit more. But Muller knows that Jonathan could struggle, so he's going to push him up to the limit here as he's going to try and squeeze him here into turn 3 and then heading into turn 4. But unfortunately, just not quite enough. I think Jonathan going on those medium tyres helped him for that moment, but how long are these going to last? He needs to save those tyres eventually. That will probably cause Muller to catch up towards the end. We'll have to wait and see. But for now, Jonathan leads.
Yeah, I think that was Muller's chance to try and really arrest Jonathan's pace and progress throughout this race. He needed to get past him into either turn 1 or turn 3. He couldn't quite do either of it. Great defensive driving from Jonathan into turn 3 as well. Turn 1, Muller just wasn't quite close enough or brave enough, but he had so much more battery charge available to him that he was really able to challenge Jonathan back for that position, because Jonathan used it pretty much all of his battery charge on trying to get past the Red Bull in the first place. But now he's completely failed to gap him over the course of the lap, which you'd expect him to be able to do on those medium tyres compared to the hards on Muller. So actually, this is really bad news for Jonathan that he's not driving away from the Red Bull, because at some point the pendulum is going to swing back in Muller's favour, and Jonathan needs to make sure he's well up the road by the time it happens. And at this current pace, he's not going to be able to ensure that at all. Now, actually, that's Brownie into the pits from the race lead, actually pitting from those hard tyres before Gelbervan comes into pits off of his mediums. So actually, Brownie, of course, he will be able to go onto the medium tyres towards the end of the race, doesn't have to use the softs at all. So hards to mediums for the Mercedes, not necessarily what we were expecting. Meanwhile, Muller very close to Jonathan once again, but not close enough to make the move on this lap either. But all he needs to do is stay close to the back of the Renault, because he knows at some point towards the end of this race, it's going to be in his favour and he's going to be able to make that move easy peasy.
He wants to try and make sure that he gets rid of that point deficit he missed last week due to him not racing in this tier. So if he gets this win today, that's really going to help him. But don't forget, Muller's on a 3-second time penalty as well. Not sure about Jonathan as well. Luckily, the tyres are showing up right this week, which is good news. Maybe this is something that Cody's fixed. We'll have to wait and see, of course. But we are halfway into this race. Jonathan's starting to pull away quite a bit now, but for how much longer he's going to try and... I think he's going to try and get past Gelbervan as well. That's still yet to pit, but that's going to be easy picking as well. So we've got more battles happening in the midfield for fourth place, potential podium spot as well. Leonard, Danny and Dylan as well. We also got Kruzit and Frosty trying to make a move. Kruzit up into 9th place, and Frosty is trying to make go easy pick as well. It's going to be a lot more difficult for him, but the battling up front is allowing these two to catch up to these two even more, and you never know, these two up front get owned, and Svetkov might get more penalties too. So only time will tell, as the two McLarens are pretty much running in tandem. I wouldn't want to be in Frosty's shoes right now. If we got he's in a McLaren sandwich at the moment.
He is indeed, but notice the fact that Andy is actually behind Kruzix. Andy started from pole position in that McLaren. He started almost half a second clear of everyone else in qualifying. Kruzix started from the back, from P18, and now he's ahead of his teammate and with fresher hard tyres to go to the end of the race on. So what a drive this has been from Kruzix, and also what an unlucky race this has been from Andy so far as well. That 5-second time penalty in the pits has really hampered him, and also of course the incident in the first lap coming through turn 13 with Getone that saw him into the gravel and losing a handful of positions, and it's just been a really unlucky race for him. He'd be looking to try and take the lead of the championship with Bastek not here today, but it's probably not going to happen, even though he started from pole position, which is astonishing to think about. Meanwhile, there's quite a lot of corks and quite a lot of bottles at the moment. Leonard has been keeping Danny Orr and DL Warren behind him really, really nicely. Danny Orr not able to get close enough to the back of that Williams to be able to get past him, which he needs to do while his medium tyres are still the tyres to be on. Gelbervan now is losing out to Jonathan, of course, on 10-lap fresher medium tyres. And now Muller needs to make sure he gets past Gelbervan. He's going to be able to do it, no problem. Will Gelbervan just cede the position, or will he fight it back? He does try and fight it back just a little bit, but no, Muller gets past, and that was critical. If Muller didn't get past there, Jonathan was going to disappear into the sunset, but the Red Bull was able to get past Gelberman.
Yeah, he needed to do that really, because otherwise the race win would have been lost if, because obviously Jonathan is on fresher tyres and he'll be able to increase that by a few tenths or even a few seconds. So his main job now is to try and get past Jonathan yet again, because he's got to really, and also break the 3-second deficit. So he's got to be ahead of Jonathan by 3 or 4 seconds. So it's going to be a tall order, so he wants to get past within at least 3 or 4 laps to go, because otherwise it's too hard to increase that deficit. And we've got a yellow flag, but meanwhile we've got Dylan right on the back of Danny once again for P5. We've got Leonard on the back as well. We do have a yellow flag. Oh, that was a save and a half from Dylan there going into turn 12. He almost binned it there, but he kept it under control, but he lost so much time compared to Danny. So Danny stays ahead at the moment, but he's right on the back of Leonard now.
Yeah, still really, really close to the back of the Williams, but he hasn't looked like he's been able to even think about making a move at any point. Leonard just seems to have some straight line speed over Danny. Maybe it's a setup thing, but meanwhile, Muller and Jonathan are battling, and Muller's actually taken him into turn 1. Jonathan will fight back towards turn 3, but he won't have the DRS available to him. He's got just about enough ERS in the tank to think about the overtake, but he's not going to be able to use it down the whole straight. Tries to brake as late as he can into the inside, just about forces Muller to give him some room, but Muller around the outside, imperious in the Red Bull, reclaims P1, and now he has the tyres to be on. I think this might have just been the moment of change. 8 laps into that stint on the medium tyres, maybe Jonathan's struggling just a little bit, and now Muller needs to be able to make this advantage pay. He needs to be able to gap Jonathan, because of course he has that 3-second time penalty in his pocket, and as long as Jonathan stays within DRS, it's going to be that much easier to stick to Muller's pace.
Yeah, exactly as well. But meanwhile, Muller, he's got to find 3 seconds now, to be honest. Otherwise, that's it. And Get Owned was having a battle with the AlphaTauri as well. Did quite well as well. And speaking of Get Owned, he's got a 3-second time penalty. Another one, which is a shame. That could affect this raid. Leonard as well. I think it might have been, turn 12, almost certainly, where he cut the corner. Or he might have got another warning for causing a collision. That'll be interesting to know as well. But I do see a few people dropping off on those medium tyres. We're seeing the likes of Get Owned possibly starting to catch pretty soon. We do have a yellow flag, and I believe that's yes, that is Brownie. He's dropped a little bit off, and he's down into 13th now. We've got Galbabad making his next stop, and interestingly, Backplan, but he left it way too late to do a pit stop. Can he make those softs till the end?
I'm sure he was waiting just so he can do 9 laps on those softer tires. So it's gonna be interesting to see where he's gonna finish on those fresh soft tires, because he also has to make those overtakes stick, and it's pretty tough, as you can see, to overtake around this track. So I'm curious if he can make it back to the top 10 or not.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, of course, but never say never, really. He's about 3.6 seconds behind Brownie. And Brownie's on the medium tyres, which probably will make it until the end of this Grand Prix. Meanwhile, the comeback king of cruises, don't forget he started last. He's on the charge now. He's got Svetkov and Fossey right behind him too as well. Danny getting a penalty again. So pretty much Danny and Dylan are fighting for position, I believe. I will get Black Panther to do a penalty check in just a few moments, but I think we're not going to see many people having cleanish races, really, to be honest, in terms of penalties.
Yeah, this track is really tough for corner cutting and track extension warnings. There's a lot of places where it can really catch you out, and a lot of these drivers are being caught out as they were in qualifying as well. Jonathan really close behind Muller, and Muller actually has a bit of a squiggly moment through turn 2. This is going to be an easy move. Oh no, it's not, because he's on the grass in the Renault. He just about fights back, forces Muller to give him the space, and still makes the move up the inside. He almost had 4 wheels on the grass down the straight there, and he takes the lead regardless. Jonathan does not care what Muller will throw at him. He's coming back at him, and now Muller back in towards turn 6. Will he be able to take it? No, just backing away now from the Renault. And whoa, that was a really, really hairy moment indeed. And Jonathan with incredible bravery, but struggling through turn 7 up towards turn 9 they go now. Bit of contact made between the Red Bull and the Renault, but Jonathan staying ahead for the time being. Leonard, maybe he needs to be able to try and take advantage of this battling, because he's now down to 5.4 seconds behind them, eating into the lead just a little bit. And now Muller with a second 3-second time penalty. I saw it exactly what happened. He cut the corner into turn 11, but now Jonathan's run wide through turn 12, and the battle will continue through turn 13 they come now. I'm losing my words, and they're going to the sides of each other once again, and it's Jonathan who pushes Muller off the track and takes P1, and now with a bit of a firmer grip, at least until turn 1 comes around again.
Wow, that was amazing from Jonathan. I've got to say, if he deserves to win this race, he deserves to win this race. We can see his tyres are starting to die out with the temperature. And here we go. Muller is trying to get past it because he knows he's got that deficit. And Muller does get past him into turn 1, but Jonathan doesn't know about Muller's penalties yet because he wants to try and get past. We've got Leonard and Danny as well going for the move. And Muller's got a bit wide, actually. And they made a little bit of contact too.
There's damage.
There is damage, actually, so one of these two will be going into the pits. Meanwhile, the Ferrari, Danny's having a good race so far. He got past both Leonard and Dylan, so both of them making mistakes there.
Yeah, Danny doing good job to get past Leonard. He's been stuck behind him for so long, but Jonathan has front wing damage now. It's just a little bit of front wing damage. He might be able to nurse it to the end, but I doubt he's going to have any answer to Muller once the next overtaking opportunity comes around, because he's going to be losing a lot of downforce on the front end of that car, and that's really critical, particularly through this part of the track coming up. Turns 11 and 12 is where you need downforce the most, and watch the Red Bull just close right up to the back. You can see how much Jonathan is struggling, forcing Muller right to the inside once again, but the Red Bull driver is having none of it up into turn 13 in first position once again, and now surely he will be able to finally drive away. They've been battling back and forth so much, but with the front wing damage on Jonathan's car, Muller should finally be able to build the gap, but he needs to build 6 seconds in as many laps. Will he be able to do it? How much is this front wing damage going to have for Jonathan? We'll have to wait and see, but he's already almost out of DRS range. Danny catching behind as well, but he has loads of time penalties in his pocket. Leonard doesn't have that many, and I'm not sure about DL Warren either, but this is going to be decided by the penalties once again, but Muller just needs to try and get 6 seconds to Jonathan, and with Jonathan limping, it's now possible.
Yeah, indeed. We don't know about Jonathan's penalties either, so you never know. Jonathan might have penalties in his back pocket as well. And Muller's made a mistake. Muller's made a mistake. That is awful. That was a mistake on its own. It might have been a... I don't know what happened there. That was a weird place to bin it. He probably might be his wheel or something like that, or he might have lost it. That's for sure. That's given Jonathan a bit of a saving grace, I've got to say. And the top two, they are in the pressure at the moment. They are struggling right now to try and hold on to this lead. Muller trying to get that 6-second gap. Jonathan's trying to nurse those tyres till the end. But if I was Jonathan, if he knew about the 6 seconds, I would try and save a little bit of tyre life, because you have to get those mediums to the end. Save enough, and then you would get those tyres to the end. But there's a danger of Danny getting past you, but Danny's probably got more penalties than Jonathan. So as long as Leonard and Dylan don't get past you, then Jonathan should be absolutely fine getting to the end.
Danny is closing up to the back of these two as well. Muller is a lucky boy. He did not pick up front wing damage from that crash into the wall. Somehow, the gods are really smiling on him today in that Red Bull. Had a bit of a couple of bumps and bashes with Jonathan as well. Didn't pick up wing damage while the Renault did. To be fair, I think Jonathan was probably being a little bit over aggressive with some of those battles as well, so maybe that's a little bit of karma for the Renault driver as well. Muller was making it clear just how unhappy he was with Jonathan by weaving behind him. Someone joins the lobby. Hopefully that won't cause an issue for too many of the drivers. Danny trying to get past Jonathan now, which he needs to do. He's on a similar amount of time penalties to Muller up ahead. So if he can try and challenge the hard tyre running Red Bull up at the front, maybe the win is just possible for Danny. A podium certainly possible, but he needs to make sure that Leonard and DL Warren are far enough behind him as well. Jonathan struggling so much with that front wing damage, and this is the opportunity for the Ferrari to try and take it around the outside into turn 11. Backs out of it though, just waiting for a more sensible time, but picks up yet another 3-second time penalty by taking way too much of the inside curve in turn 11. He really needs to start keeping it clean, because he's throwing away the podium right now.
I think that's the same penalty that Muller got a few laps ago, so that is quite a common place to get penalties, and Danny knows that he's got less damage, of course, and obviously Black Panther, you raced quite a bit on this track. How costly is even minor front wing damage to your races, especially towards the end?
It's for sure gonna cost like half a second, but like I don't know if it's like an orange front wing damage, but it surely has costed a lot of time for Jonathan, and he's gonna struggle for sure. But at the moment he still has no penalties yet, so
wow,
it's gonna be interesting if he can keep within the 6 seconds of Muller, and then Joris for sure gonna drop down with his 12 seconds of penalties, because Leonard only has 3 seconds, and I don't know yet about Warren, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting in the end.
Bring it on, guys, bring it on. Let us know who's been your highlight driver of the day. Well, who's been your driver of the day? Who has shone up to your expectations? Who has exceeded your expectations? It'll be interesting to know, as we've got a few laps left to go in the sunshine down under here in Australia. Don't forget, after tonight, the races will be moved to Thursdays from now on, so it doesn't clash with AOR. But luckily AOR doesn't start until the beginning of September now, but they are sticking to the schedule. And here we go, Danny and Jonathan challenging for P2. Hopefully not much contact there. A little bit of a squeeze from Jonathan, but that's going to allow Danny to really start to pull the gap that he needs. But Jonathan is stuck in traffic. This damage is really hindering him right now. This is not what he wants. He's not going to be happy whatsoever, as we got Leonard trying to get past Dylan, but Dylan getting the move done perfectly. It'll be interesting to see how Dylan is doing in terms of penalties, because he could be on course to be winning this race as it stands, or maybe Jonathan if he keeps into the gap of Muller and Danny, but he's got a few laps to go, of course. He's still got trouble. I don't know what's going to happen, but here comes Dylan. A beautiful move on Jonathan. He gets P3, and at the moment, if he gets no penalties, he'll be taking the race win.
Yeah, Jonathan doesn't know about everyone's penalty situation around him, but what he needs to do is just let everyone through. He's losing so much time. He's going down kicking and screaming at the moment in the Renault as he goes down to P5 now as well, but he has that front wing damage. It's going to lose the track positions, but everyone in front of him has penalties and he doesn't have any. So as long as he just stays within 6 seconds of Muller, that's his target. He can still win this race even if he crosses the line in P5, as long as he tries to keep with them. There's 3 laps to go, 3.5 I should say, and he's going to be losing a lot of time with that front wing damage, so it's a bit of a tall order, but it's made only worse, it's made only more difficult by the fact that he's been battling so hard with the likes of Danny and Warren and Leonard, and not just letting them pass straight through. Leonard won't be happy with Jonathan's treatment of him. Jonathan has had some pretty sketchy moments wheel to wheel so far this race. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a couple of drivers with some complaints maybe to the stewards about the conduct of the Renault driver, but now it's going to get worse and worse for Jonathan as Getoned is cruising up to the back of him as well. Andy has somehow passed Kruzix. I think Kruzix has made a mistake somewhere, as he's got Gelbevand all over his case in the Haas as well. Gelbevand on that contra strategy up into P8 he goes. Good drive from the Haas driver thus far. Ghetto now all over the back of Jonathan. Jonathan, once again, I still think it's best just to let him through, but it just goes against every fibre of your being as a racing driver. You want to keep as many positions as you can, and it doesn't feel like it's possible to finish the race in P6 and win it, but it still just about is here for Jonathan.
Yeah, it is. We'll have to wait and see. We don't know about the penalties of the other drivers, so, you know, Jonathan has just got to keep going, but he can't afford to go into a wall and collide into people. But, you know, the danger is he's going to lose positions. But if I was him, points is better than no points, and he's got a few DNFs in a row. You don't want to go into Australia onto the next race with another DNF. You want to go into the next race with some great points scored under your belt. As Get Owned and Jonathan, they were fighting at the beginning of this race. The first time it didn't go out so well, but it's always a bit of a swerve there from Get Owned. They're trying to aggressively defend from Jonathan, as Andy gets past Jonathan actually already. So Andy up into 6th place. He's gonna I think benefit from these guys as well. Don't forget, Get Owned has got a few penalties so far as well. We're on the penultimate lap of this race. So far Muller leads this race, but unless Dylan has a penalty, it's not going to be enough for him to take the race victory today. Andy is going to try and get another move past Get Owned, and he does it up into 5th place. He's 3.2 seconds behind Leonard. It's going to be a tough order for him to try and get past in these later stages. We got Jonathan losing yet another position for past Gelbevand, as Gelbevand's trying to get the better run into turn 4. And I think he's got the job done. Yes, he does, as Sight is out of the session and he's retired in the pit lane. So that is, it obviously is a bit too late to call a safety car, unfortunately. It's crew to get yet another 3-second time penalty. I'm losing track of how many penalties, but I think that's going to hinder him quite a bit. He's going to try and go past into turn 9, but this time he gets it done. I don't think it's going to make any difference though, but he's going to claw the gap as much as he possibly can now.
So Warren has 6 seconds worth of time penalties. That's the same as Muller up in the lead at the moment. Gelbevand and Jonathan picking up time penalties. Jonathan, he's so close to ending the race without any time penalties, but picking up that 3-second time penalty means that he's going to finish. He's got no chance of finishing on the podium at this stage anymore. Everyone has penalties out there at the moment. I believe, as things stand, Muller will win the race. Warren will be 2nd and Leonard will be 3rd. Danny has a lot of time penalties in that Ferrari. I don't think there's anything he can do to maintain his slot on the podium for the time being. Getoned has quite a few penalties. Andy has a few penalties. So I think it's going to be Muller, DL Warren and Leonard at the moment, but Leonard is actually really closing up to the back of DL Warren, and if he gets past him here, he'll definitely be in the pound seat for getting P2. What a drive from the Williams driver. He's had a bit of a quiet race here as he actually goes a little bit too deep, and Warren back around the outside of turn 4. Lovely move from the Alfa Romeo. Getoned is round. in the Mercedes. I didn't see exactly what happened to him, but he's gone round and into the gravel at turn 3, maybe just trying to brake late to try and defend his position, but it's all gone wrong for him with a lot of penalties in his pocket and down in P12. That's all the chances he had at points out of the window, and he was leading this race at one point, let's not forget. So tragedy for the Mercedes driver. Muller leading the way in the Red Bull. He's one warning away from yet another time penalty, and if he got that, Warren would be in with a sniff, but I think he's too far back. I think Muller is going to take this one.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Of course, Muller needs to start pushing as much as he can, but I think Dylan and Leonard are fighting so hard that Muller's able to increase that gap just a little bit, so one of those penalties may not even matter. So Muller is going to come across the line after starting 4th. He's going to win the race on track, but don't forget he's got 2 3-second time penalties. Is anyone going to finish ahead of him? Danny in 2nd for now, and yeah, Muller takes the win. Leonard gets 2nd. He gets less penalties than Warren. I think Warren got one on the final lap by the sounds of things. Danny in 4th, Andy in 5th. Jonathan got less penalties than everybody else, but just by 100 of a second. 100 of a second. Jonathan is P6. That's how close it was. If he didn't get that 3-second time penalty, he would have been in 5th place.
I think he would have been in 4th, actually. I think he would have got Danny Orr as well. Not quite the podium. And I think he had the pace to maybe stick with some of those drivers and have enough pace to try and get himself on the podium as things shook out. Kruzik's really disappointing me down in 12th at the end of that all. Had a bit of a mistake at some point that we didn't catch, and a lot of penalties as well. A great drive through the field, but it was really a yo-yo for so many of these drivers out here. Pretty much the only thing that stayed the same throughout the whole race was the fact that Prosticek was in about 8th for the whole time.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing that happened, and it was just a little bit of crazy things that happened. And Black Panther, what do you think made a difference for Muller actually taking this race victory? Because he was one very lucky boy today.
I think the start with Andy Nader, who had the damage, I think that made a difference for sure. And also the battles with Jonathan. I think he got lucky that Jonathan got wing damage, because otherwise Jonathan could have sticked right behind him and get that P1.
To be honest, one of the contenders for driver of the day, that's for sure, will have to go to Muller. He's got that race victory that he needed to try and close in on the championship. Andy would have taken that advantage today to try and actually go into the lead of the championship after Bastek being in tier 1 tonight, or not even here. But he can't, so I do believe Bastek is going to stay ahead, because the gap was 10 points going into this. So that is a shame, but you can see every single person getting a penalty. And Muller, if Muller didn't pull out that 3 seconds he needed, Lennard would have won the race. So Muller was pushing for his dear life, and that made a difference. 3-second gap was what he needed. If he was around 2 seconds, 1 second behind Lennard, then he would have been P2. So he had a really good final lap to help him get that win. So we got Lennard in 2nd, Dylan gets his first podium, and then we got Danny, Andy, Jonathan, Brownie, Profosti, Galbaban, and now we got Svetkov, Get Owned, Kruzit, Oxygen. A bit of a quiet race for him, but he still gets a good result in P13 after starting 17th. And we got Ben, Shved, and then on 3 retirements, Syke, Marcy, and Polikov. And I'm going to start with Black Panther. Who has been your driver of the day?
I think my driver of the day is Warren, because he started P10 and still coming out to the podium is a massive job. So well done to him.
And what about you, Jacob?
Yeah, I mean, I think Warren's a really, really good shout. I'm going to give it to Lennard because he came really close to taking it to Muller for the race win. Muller was one more corner cut warning away from an extra 3-second time penalty, and that would have seen Lennard take the win. And I did not know what to expect from the Williams driver going into this race, and he has impressed me very much because he was consistently there or thereabouts. He didn't necessarily have the pace of the absolute front runners, but he did a great job out there in the Williams. So I think Warren is a very good shout, but I'd say Lennard.
Oh, I have to say, I'm shot between Dylan and Leonard as well, but I'll have to give it to Warren after starting 10th place. 3rd place, almost had a sniff of a win. His pace was incredible, and he had some great battles as well, so I'll have to give it to him as well. But a great race from all these drivers today, some more than others. I think a few people will be having a little bit of a debrief, a shorter debrief than usual, because the next race is on Thursday instead of Sunday. So set your calendars for Thursday, not Sunday, which is what I'm going to do. Do you, any of you know what the next track is? Because I need to double check on that one.
It's gonna be Bahrain.
Or it's going to be Bahrain. So I'm guessing for majority of the rest of the calendar, it's going to follow the real life original calendar for most of it. Obviously, we've done Italy, Brazil, and Austria already, but the rest of the tracks are going to have the same. It's going to follow the same order as normal. And if we do go to like Austria again, then that will be skipped, and obviously it'll be France and Britain, I believe. But more information as more dates are to be announced, of course. And thank you, Black Panther, for joining us in the commentary box as our pit lane reporter.
Yeah, it was really a pleasure to watch this race with you guys. So thank you guys as well for commentating.
And thanks once again to Jake for joining me once again in the commentary box. It's been a pleasure for you to have you on board.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's been a pleasure for me to be on board as well. Yeah, no, absolutely. What a great race it was today as well. Really full of action, not a clean race at all. I think a lot of drivers maybe need to take a bit of a look at themselves after that race. But yeah, very entertaining to say the least.
Yeah, indeed. So how are these guys going to fare in Bahrain on Thursday? So make sure you join us same time on Thursday at 7:45 for that as well. And don't forget, make sure you follow our sponsor on Twitter, HyperX, as well for some more of their products. Have a good evening, rest of your evening, everybody. And we will see you on Thursday. Bye.